Hello everyone, I'm Hafiz.
And I'm Parkson.
We are the fathers behind the podcast
We Are Dads Too.
We discuss everything from being an effective father to a good co-parent to our spouse.
We also have guests and experts on our show to talk about the different aspects of fatherhood. Come and join us to discover more about our experiences as fathers because
We are Dads Too. Click on the link below to follow us on Spotify.
Hey Hafiz, good to see you.
Yes, Parkson, nice to see you too.
Are you excited about this podcast?
Of course, I am.
Well, this is the very first one and I was so excited I couldn't sleep well last night. I was dreaming about what to say, what to do, and it kept me awake all night. I only slept for 2 hours.
Well, for me, it was the same. But it was not because of the podcast that kept me awake. It was the rain and the so cold last night that I've woken up so many times.
I see. Well, today's podcast is actually on a very important subject and a very one that touches a lot of fathers' hearts, and it's about our children's education.
Yes. When you talk about education, especially in Singapore, many parents, they are very much, influenced, all right, by the good education system in Singapore, all right, and such that sometimes we feel it like a pressure cooker. All right, you see other parents, pushing their children, and you see that my children also must be the same. You see other parents, sending them to tuition. I also must send them to tuition. But is that the way that we should be looking at education? You think?
Well, I think every parent wants the best for their kids, and whatever they do, I'm sure it comes from good intentions, a good heart. All right. Well, there is pressure. I mean, Singapore is a very small nation. We are in competition with bigger countries and more well-advanced countries, and therefore we need to really do well. We need to, catch up with them and maybe even exceed their standards.
Yeah. In fact, it's very good that we are so focused in education, such that the children have, when they grow up, they really have many options. Right, but at the same time, there are many children who also fell off the cracks, all right, and wonder whether it is because of the family, it's because of the environment, or it's because of themselves. So I think these are the things that maybe we can talk about today. Yeah. So what are the questions usually that parents usually ask?
Well, let's talk about our own parents. What was your father like, in terms of your education?
Okay. There's a long story, but let's keep it short. For me, my parent, especially my father, all right, he himself, only had secondary 4 education, and he wants to see his children to, really go far. So what he intended was for me not only to go to, the highest level, university and so on, but for a start, he wanted actually me to go to one of the top school. But I didn't want. But he had a dream. What he did was every Sunday, he would bring us to this to play badminton at that school, when we were in primary school. So when he wanted me to be to go to that school, all right, he really, make sure that I go there, even though I didn't want. But to cut the story short, I thought parents naturally, and my father especially, have good intent, of wanting their children to do well and so on. But sometimes, do parents hot house and stress their children too much? And is that something good?
Oh,
Yeah.
I think definitely not. Well, I think probably a lot of parents didn't know another way to do it. All right, out of feeling, this competition and the pressure, the urgency. They just wanted their children to do as well as they can, and I think the system probably didn't help a lot. There's a lot of ranking and competition, and so we are always reminded, all right, whether we are in the top of the class or not at the top of the class and things like that. Yeah. So I think today's episode, we want to help parents understand, especially fathers, what their role is in terms of their children's education so that they can focus on what really matters. Okay. And yeah, so I want to, maybe let's talk about the dreams that fathers have or parents have for their own kids. Sometimes our parents will have something they have in mind that I want my kid to be a doctor or a lawyer or engineer, and then they kind of keep pushing their kids in that direction, right? And have you heard of parents like this?
Yeah, many. In fact, I myself as a parent sometimes maybe are very much affected by how the environment is and all very stressed. But I think one of the main questions that we should ask ourselves, all right, when I want our children to be performing well, right, in school or in education, what is why do they want to study well? What's the purpose of them going to school? What is the purpose of education? We seldom sometimes ask that question, and yet our children, they have so much potential. Not only in that particular area that we want them to be, like for example, you mentioned to be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, but also to be go into the areas that they are really talented in. Be it music, sports, all right, even entertainment industry for that matter. But in Singapore, do we encourage them to go into these industries? And for again, the role of us as a father, as a parent, how do we, see our role as being able to guide them, all right, into the direction that probably we wish they have, but we do not make it so restrictive, and then we do not really have their potential being, have their potential really being something that they can act upon. Yeah. So, what would be the role of a father, you think, or a dad in a child's education? Is it, for example, to teach them, to really go into their books and looking at what they study every day? What do you think, Faxon?
Well, if I talk about my own father, I mean, he only had O levels, and he had to begin to go to work because the family wasn't doing well financially. So, he felt the pressure, the responsibility to go to work and help to support the family financially. And I guess because of that, he wanted me to do well, better than he did, so that, he have the assurance, or at least I will have the assurance that I can support my family when I do have one. And as a result of that, he restricted me in many things. For example, in primary school, I joined the Boys Brigade. And I wanted to join the Boys Brigade when I went to the secondary school, but he didn't allow me to.
This is the one that have a lot of badges, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I was in Scouts, but not as many badges as the Boys Brigade.
Yeah. And so, your sleeve is covered with badges. And of course, you have to work hard for them. It's not free,
Right.
All right. Yeah. So I was very disappointed, and I really wanted to be in the Boys Brigade because I enjoyed it a lot. But my father's principle philosophy was, no, you study first, do well in school, and next time you can enjoy all that you want to. All right. But I think today maybe it's a little bit different. I think today what fathers want to do is they want their children to really excel and do what they can. But still very much our culture, I guess, is focused on employability and marketability. All right. If after I've invested so much money in you as a father in my child, sending you to education in the best schools that I can afford, to university, all the way there, I really want that there is some returns, that you make full use of that education instead of wasting it away. All right. So of course they choose courses that have the highest employability, and when you have a job, there are great prospects, you earn good money and things like that. So I think that's maybe the motivation, the thoughts that fathers have at the back of their minds, and therefore it causes them to do the things that they do.
Yeah, but are we really thinking that all fathers think like that?
Definitely not. Definitely not. There are some fathers who are a little bit open-minded, all right? And those are few. I think it would be good if more fathers are like that, and really know the child, all right? Because children are all different, My father was a banker, and I'm sure he wanted my sister and I to follow in his footsteps. But unfortunately, I don't have his DNA in that area, and I became an engineer, and today I'm doing something totally different even. All right, and my sister went into marketing. Advertising and marketing and things like that. So none of us became bankers, So sometimes fathers may think, okay, I want my son or my daughter to follow in my footsteps, especially in family business, all right? And that's, of course, another group of people. And so they kind of try to guide their kids or sometimes coerce their kids in that direction. And they forget that the child may have a different talent, a different strength, and different dream than what their parents have.
Yeah, Paksan, what about if we talk about parents? Yeah, I mean, you come from a father who is a banker. My father is only have Sec 4 education. No, so does a child's future depends on their background alone? All right, and if you don't have that good background as a father, what is your role? I mean, you cannot teach your children. You don't have that, capacity, to ensure that your children go as far as even you didn't go as far. But now, as a dad, we want to make a difference in our children's life, right? All fathers want that, So what would be the so-called baseline which all fathers can do? Simple enough for them to do, but it is a key role of a father. What do you think?
I think the formula for success has many components, and only one of them is academic performance or excellence. All right. The other components in the formula for success has things like, are you driven? Are you, do you have EQ rather than not just IQ?
Yeah.
All these what people call soft skills. Today, we should not even call them soft skills because they are more like essential skills. All right. And so I think one of the things that fathers must remember is that there are more important things than just education, the grades in school, that determines whether your child have a great chance of becoming successful, maybe in a different way. All right, in a different way. He might not have a degree or a master's or even a PhD, but does not mean he will lose out to other people who have all those things.
Yeah, I'm also thinking of fathers have experience. They have life experience. They have work experience. They have lived longer than their children, definitely. And they are usually wiser, right? Although you can argue that, it takes age to be wise. Young people also can be wise. However, fathers or dads have that time with them, that they have experienced things in life, which it can be a great resource for them to, understand the child's own dreams, and then how can they set a certain direction or even give advice. So I identify, that they can also not only have that role of, of teaching the so-called subjects that the children are learning in school, which mean they may or may not have the capacity. They also can advise. All right. But at the same time, children, when you talk about parents advising them in education, I'm not sure all parents are able to reach, a good connection with the child, right? Are we saying, therefore, there are other ways to, instead of advising, there are other ways to motivate, other ways to guide your child in not such an intrusive way? I don't want my father to talk about education. I mean, enough. I go to school the whole day. The teacher tell me, do this, do that, do homework. What more? Sometimes go back also got homework. All right. Then now my father asking, the first thing my father, when I come home, my father say, do you have homework? All right. And so on and so forth. So again, going back to the key role of a dad. All right. When, what would be that other things that really they can do or we can do?
I think we need to remember that our children have lots of teachers. I mean, they have more than one teacher in school. Maybe for every subject, they may have one different teacher. And for many kids, they have tutors. All right, so they have another teacher after school. And the last thing that a child would want to have when they get home is another teacher.
Yeah.
So I always tell parents, your role is not that of a teacher. Because number one, probably we do not know how to teach, all right? We are not educators ourselves, but we do feel the responsibility to do that. So you're not a teacher. So if you're not a teacher, then what are you? Then I would say that maybe the best thing you can do for a child is to be a cheerleader. Because every child, what they need is someone to believe in them so that they can believe in themselves. Being in school, they are actually in competition mode, all right? And for some child, they are more resilient.
Yeah.
So they're okay. But there are many children who might feel inferior. It says, I didn't do as well as the other kid in class for this test. And they feel bad about themselves and they come home feeling very discouraged.
And sometimes it's the parents that compare, right?
That's
how
right.
did Jane do? How did Siti do? How did Sarah do?
Yeah.
And it's maybe sometimes sounds like innocent, the question. But for the child, you're comparing me with my friend.
Yep.
All right, I feel so small. Even if I'm doing better than the friend, there's someone else better than me, and they start, having this complex. Right. So again, would that?
Yeah, it reminds me, when a parent asks the child, so how many marks do you get for that test? Oh, I got 80 marks. All right, 80 marks. How about your friends? Oh, my friends got less than 80. Oh, well done. So this kind of innocent words
Yeah.
sends a very subtle message to the child, and that is, you are doing well as long as you are ahead of others. But I think what a better thing to teach our children is that the only person we are competing with is ourselves.
Yeah, but I got another thing to say here. Sometimes this become a habit. As parents, I mean, we have habits. If we have been parents for 10 years or even 5 years, we build such a habit that is to change. For example, things like when your child come home, don't ask about school. Ask about them, how they are doing. All right, their feelings. About their what they enjoy in school, what they enjoy along the way from school. Start a conversation that the children like to hear, right? Rather than what you want to hear. So I thought as parents, sometimes we need to just be quiet for a while when our child come home, all right? And then start thinking and look at their faces, look at their emotions, look at their body language, and we can know how they feel. Instead of just asking them the same old question every day.
I remember a local movie made by Jack Neo, the title was I'm Not Stupid. There was this father who comes home every day from work, and he asks his son only 2 questions. The first question is, have you eaten?
Okay,
Second
fine.
question is, have you finished your homework?
Wow. Okay, I didn't remember that part.
Yeah, I think Jack Neo's movies are very representative of the Singaporean lifestyle, And you're right, fathers, as if they are, no better question to ask. And so they ask, how was school today, And the normal answer they get is, okay lah.
Yeah, okay. Nothing
And so
to say.
fathers ask me, why do they say this? So I tell them, well, I've been trying to do some research on this for quite some time, and I think I've got the answer. I said, number one, your child has been in school for 5 to 6 hours, and your question is, how was school? How was that 5 to 6 hours? The child might be thinking, where do you want me to begin to tell you about how
Okay,
it was?
I can relate to this. Just imagine, our husbands, coming back home from work, and our wife asks us, how's work today? What usually our answer is, okay lah, no problem. The last thing we want to
I
talk
didn't
about
get
is about work.
fired.
The last thing we talk about is about work. But I think moms are different. All right, when they come back home, they want to talk everything that happened
They want
as if it was months. You just spend 6 hours at work, and yet it's like a few months you are there. It's just our nature. All right, to have fathers usually a man. They don't want to talk so much about things. All right, but at the same time, when they ask questions sometimes to people, they expect the answers. Right, so I think this is about being conscious whenever we, especially to our children, whenever we see them, whenever we meet them, and to feel and to learn how to feel how they are feeling. All right, I mean, this kind of relationship or skill that we have, I think we can learn them. It is not something that we cannot learn. It's a matter of where we can learn from. I think nowadays we have a lot of YouTube, podcasts, a lot of self-improvement tools that we can listen to.
Yep, that's why we are
Right.
creating this podcast to give fathers, the tips that they can use. And yeah, it's a skill. Fathering, parenting is basically a skill.
Yeah.
And if you can master Microsoft Office, you can master parenting.
Yes. And I think the greatest job as a dad, all right, is to have masters in a dadhood, right, or parenthood. I mean, this won't be something that will be given a degree, a paper for it, but the person that will acknowledge your expertise will be your own children. All right, I think that's the best reward that you will ever get, all right, from anyone. All right, and I believe this is a principle that sometimes, I do housework, like, for example, usually my wife asks me to do things, right? So say, can you do the laundry? Can you do the dishes? Can you mop the floor? All right. Then, one of the things that I ask myself, all right, sometimes, this so-called monkey brain, come on, I can do many other things, right? Other than this, I got my work to do, I got, my sports to watch, why am I doing this? And one of the things that really motivate me to do that so-called physical, so-called menial thing is, you know what? This is a model that you are teaching your children. All right? Sometimes you say, hey, come on, put your shoes properly. Can you help fold the clothes? This and that. And the children, I tell you frankly, they don't like all this. But we tend to say all this, sometimes so naturally, that they think that it's not nagging, but something that the more you say it, the more I won't do it. All right. So again, it's about realizing that we don't want people to do unto us what we do unto others, all right, and be more aware, all right. Whenever, especially when we talk to our loved ones, like our children, yeah. So, Paksan, I think we have spoken enough about this part of the topic lah. Because when we have this title, right, Papa Don't Teach. I mean, we think that a role of a father, although there are many, all right, and one of the key role is to make sure that the child's education is taken care of, all right, and we think also that we also need to ensure their, character building. All right, it's one of the key things that you want them to get out of school. But I heard from some of teacher friends, right? He said that, parents in Singapore, they expect teachers or school to do everything, all right, to make sure that there's not only the children do well academically, they behave well, they do social work, they do community work, and they become good children, obedient, and so on and so forth. What do you think? Is it the role of the school, all right, to take care of all this?
Well, I think parents tend to outsource everything to other people to do, and character building and teaching kids certain skills and values and things like that are best done at home because teachers only have your child from primary 1, which is 7 years old. But the first 7 years of life, that's the parents' responsibility, and that's where the training in terms of values and character all begin. And I guess a lot of it is formed, not all of it, but a lot of it is already formed by then. And so what your teachers are getting are basically the products of our work.
Yeah. So let us stop here for today, and we talk about this in more detail in our next episode because there are a lot of things to talk about. All right, yes. About this topic. What do you think?
Yep. I think this is very good. But let me just wrap up with a couple more points.
Sure.
I mentioned that fathers, it's better not to see themselves as teachers but cheerleaders.
Yeah.
All right. And you can sit next to your child as your child is doing their homework or revision and things like that. Not to supervise, not so much to just make sure that they finish their homework, and really pressure them, but be there as in a very supportive role. For example, you can notice if they are getting tired, and suggest to them, well, why don't you take a 10-minute break? Yeah. Or, bring them a drink, a snack, all right? Be very supportive so that they can do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And there are also other things that we can help the children with. For example, we can help them in terms of learning the skills of self-control, all right? How to avoid temptations and distractions, okay? And also things like, planning and decision-making. Parents tend to plan for their children. All right, once you get home, you take your shower, you take your lunch, and you straight away start on your homework, and then we'll do this and this. So the home atmosphere is almost like school.
Got timetable some more.
There's a timetable, and this is planned by the parent. Yeah. So sometimes I suggest to parents, why don't you let your child plan? All right, ask your child, if I give you the freedom to plan your time, all right, from the time you reach home from school to the time you go to bed, what would it look like? You see? Now, what you're trying to do is you're trying to help your child become more and more independent. Give your child those skills, ability to practice those skills, to plan, to make decisions, and then learn from that, all right? Maybe this plan wasn't the best. Let's see what we can do better. Now, the sooner you equip your child with these skills, the easier your job as a parent becomes later on. Otherwise, even when your child is in secondary school or pre-U, you will have to be looking over their shoulders. Have you finished your homework? Are you doing your homework? Why are you still on your phone?
Yeah.
I'm sure no parent wants to do that, right? But the problem that we are still doing that is because we have not paid enough attention in building those skills in our children from as early as possible.
Wow. There's a lot of things there, Paksan. I think we have a lot to talk about. All right. So definitely, all right, there are more tips that probably they can, people out there can learn from. Even I'm learning as I'm listening to you. All right. Because you have books on on fatherhood.
Just one.
I'm telling you, it will happen in the future, right? So more than one will happen. And if you want me to be the co-author, I'm willing to.
All right, deal.
All right. So I think again we will talk about the tips, right? When our listeners engage us on our website, on our Facebook, on our IG, please ask those difficult questions. We may not have all the answers, but I think we are here because we are building a community of dads. If we cannot give the answer, I'm sure other dads in the community can help.
Yeah, I think we learn from each other. We don't have all the answers. I like to talk with fathers and have coffee with them to hear their stories because they sometimes share very good tips. And then I say, can I share that with other dads too? He says, sure.
And this is true because I only know Paksan recently, actually, when I was wanting to join his Facebook group for effective dads. All right. And what he did was to call me and interview me. All right. I said, wow, this one's serious. Must go interview one. So what he did
Background check.
Yeah, background check. And then we had coffee. And then from that coffee, all right, session, it was about 2 hours or 3 hours. Yeah. I remember we got this idea. Why not? Instead of just two of us listening to what only we talk about. In Malay, we call it syok sendiri. All right. Why not we share this with other fathers? And I was thinking about, and why not in a podcast mode? And here we are.
Yep, just having a conversation.
Yeah.
And we happen to have cups of coffee.
Coffee, yes. Yeah. I need more coffee. It's very cold here.
Yeah. All right. So that's out there. Thank you for listening to us today. I hope you have learned some things. But your questions are very important to us. So please do leave your questions on either our website or Facebook page or Instagram page, and it's your questions that we really look forward to, and we will try our best to answer them either in the next episode or directly on those platforms.
All right. Till then, thank you very much for listening. Bye.
Bye.